morning, folks. Welcome to the program. My name is Julie Godot. Here is your weather forecast for this week, for today and this upcoming week. We're also going to take a look at what's going to be yet to come and maybe in a couple weeks ahead. But before we get started, I want to send my thoughts and prayers to the folks who lost their lives in the Des Moines tornado on Saturday as part of that big weather system, that complicated and quite dynamic weather system that moved through the central and northern plains this weekend and is currently now centered over the Ohio Valley, and it's going to spread severe weather to the Appalachians and the Southeast, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But right now, I just want to say thank you to all the storm chasers who are out there covering this event, and the folks at the National Weather Service, as well as all the local radio and TV stations who was covering this event. We all work together to try to keep the public safe and keep everybody informed and prepared as to how to behave and what to do in these situations. But sometimes things happen, and I would hate to think how many more lives could have been lost if it wasn't for the efforts of these folks who work in the field of meteorology to bring you the up-to-date weather information and safety information. So let's jump into our forecast and take a look at what's going on across the nation, shall we? All right, so the theme today is severe weather, because once again, we're going to deal with severe weather across the Southeast, especially along the spine of the Appalachians, the Great Smoky Mountains. So if you're in Gatlinburg, Tennessee today, you're going to see severe weather, as well as in Nashville, Tennessee, and in Atlanta, Georgia. You could also see that severe weather. Nashville has already seen a line of thunderstorms move through this morning, but you're not going to be done for the day. That's going to redevelop later on in the afternoon. So let's move on ahead. Let's take a look at the national map and what's going on. You look over my shoulder right here. You see that cold air across the Great Lakes area of Michigan and eastern Wisconsin. You see that light snow that's falling there. It's just another little section of that big storm system that was out here a day or two ago. It's now across. It's not moving very fast across the nation, as right now it's in the northeast, and it's going to spread that wintry precipitation across the northeast as well as back into the Great Lakes. But we'll see that severe weather along the spine of the Appalachian Mountains, and we'll see severe weather across Nashville, as well as you folks down in Atlanta can see that severe weather. On the West Coast, everything's going to be quite peachy along the West Coast. We might see a little bit of snow showers in the Montana area and Idaho, and then again down across these areas here, Colorado and parts of New Mexico might pick up a few snow showers today. But let's zoom in on our trouble spots. And our first big trouble spot is going to be the Northeast today, where we have a mixed bag of wintry precipitation. Some of you folks are going to see some freezing rain, especially if you are in upstate New York, as well as New Hampshire and Vermont, as parts in Maine. So you can see those National Weather Service headlines there indicating their winter weather advisories because of a little bit of freezing rain. And if you're in the Pittsburgh area, you're going to see that freezing rain as well. Cleveland, Ohio, you're going to get a mixed bag of rain and snow and maybe a little bit of freezing rain from time to time. So that's one of the trouble spots. And the big trouble spot is going to be down here across the Appalachians and in the Southeast. So if you are in Nashville today, you're going to see that risk of severe weather. You did see this line here pass through this morning. It brought some thunderstorms, but nothing severe as of yet. But this afternoon may be a very different story as those thunderstorms redevelop, as we get some daytime heating, and then you get that lift because of those mountains, and as that frontal boundary pushes against those mountains, it's going to really lift that atmosphere up and cause that air to rise and get those thunderstorms to redevelop again this afternoon. And if you're down in Atlanta, you also can see that you're just on the inside of that severe thunderstorm watch area, but it's not necessarily watch, but it's a convective outlook by the National Weather Service. You are just inside that slight risk of seeing that severe weather. And that main threat today is going to be that hail and gusty winds. So the damaging winds, there is a marginal risk for a tornado in these areas. If you're in this watch zone here, or this advisory zone, you could see that possible tornado. But that was the same situation for Iowa on Saturday, and look what happened. You had quite the disaster, even though the probability was very low for that type of tornado, for an F3 tornado. Especially, we don't like them when they affect big metropolitan areas. So that did hit the southern and southeastern section of Des Moines, and we don't like when that happened, because it's a very dangerous situation and a lot of lives could be lost. It's one thing when a tornado rolls across an empty field and all it does is destroy crops, but when it hits a metropolitan area, we don't want that at all. So here's the weather headlines for today, the highlights. So we're gonna have that wintry weather in the northeast, right? And we're gonna also have the severe thunderstorms and flooding in the Appalachians, because you get a little bit enhanced precipitation because of the mountains, as well as any snow that has fallen over the mountains over the last month or so, whatever you have. That's gonna melt as that rainfall comes down. So it's gonna swell some rivers and some valleys today. So it could create some flooding problems on the western sides of the mountains. And then those snow showers in the mountains out west, there's a couple of areas of concern that we could pick up a little bit of snow in the mountains. So that is a look at the weather highlights across the continental United States. All right, here's the storm impacts. This should be for both Atlanta and Nashville, but I did Nashville, but we should also include Atlanta because it's going to be about the same situation. You do have that slight risk for severe thunderstorms today. You're going to see thunderstorms, but there's about a 20% chance that they're going to be severe. Marginal risk for tornadoes, a slight risk for some hail, and wind is also a slight risk for wind damage. Those damaging winds today with some of those thunderstorms. All right, so here's our severe risk analysis. This is our area of emphasis right there. Those thunderstorms capable of producing gusty winds, small hail, maybe some large hail, and an isolated tornado or two will be possible along the Appalachian Mountains to northern Mississippi and Alabama this afternoon, as well as north central Georgia. Here is the Svc Outlook. Overall threat is a slight risk of that severe weather. The tornado risk is low. The severe thunderstorm is moderate. And here's what we have for tornadoes. A slight risk of tornadoes here. Damaging winds is moderate. Large hail is slight, and the flooding is going to be moderate, mostly due because of that runoff down the mountains. Any precipitation along the mountains is going to run down into the rivers and valleys below. All right, here's a look at our GFS. Here's that big storm, the next storm that's going to be moving through right now that we're dealing with in these areas. You see that elongated frontal boundary right there. It's going to bring that severe weather. This is actually part of that big storm we had over the weekend. You see that, and here's another Alberta Clipper that's going to move across the mountains, the southern Canada and northern areas of Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan. Might pick up a few flakes out there as that moves on off to the east. As we look on down toward the 10th, this system is going to come out of the mountains as well as pull up this moisture along the Gulf Coast. That's going to spread on east. So we're going to have a lot of these southern stream systems come along the Gulf Coast. They're not going to link up together with anything north and produce any nor'easters or anything like that. They're going to be pretty spread apart. We do get this weather system that's going to develop on the 12th and move up to the northeast. That could be our nor'easter type storm, but I wouldn't consider it a true nor'easter yet. But you see how tight those isobars are. It might be. It could be a nor'easter. We're we're just gonna call that a nor'easter. So we can get us a nor'easter about the 12th or the 13th of March. So this will be Saturday and Sunday. We can see that nor'easter, and then we get another mid-latitude storm that develops along, and this is for to be on the 15th of March, and that's going to move on off to the East Coast, spread some more severe weather along the southeastern seaboard, and that's going to be it. But we get to pick up some more snow across the upper Midwest here, Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan. We're going to pick up another little strong storm. That might be some substantial snow for the upper Midwest for the 18th and 19th. And then we get another area of snow that's going to move through on the 20th, and that's going to bring some heavy snow as well to the upper Midwest. So we got a couple opportunities for some significant snow across Minnesota and Wisconsin, as well as the upper peninsula of Michigan. Then we get us another storm system, and that is a look ahead of some of that for the GFS. But now let's jump into our surface pressure. This is what we're seeing down at the surface. So, and we will see that now. This is that Alberta Clipper that I mentioned a second ago, as it's rotating off towards the northeast. And then but we do get some high pressure that's going to move in across the southeast, and it's going to make some storm systems travel up into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. That's why we're going to see those opportunities for pretty strong snow events over the next couple of weeks. So here is the upper level flow. As you can see, a lot of these open waves, but we do get a little bit of ridging on the East Coast with a trough in the center part of the nation that's going to usher in that cold air. You see that cold air that's going to come down about the 9th. This is going to be about the 9th, which is going to be Thursday. So on your Thursday and Friday, you're going to see that cold air plunge all the way down to the Gulf Coast. So, but it's going to be short-lived because it is March. You're going to get those cold shots, but they're not going to last long. But you're going to see that cold air. So again, that's going to be the rule of thumb for the month of March is it's going to try to warm up, but cold air, you're going to have those cold shots come down out of the Arctic every now and then, every few days or so. So it's going to be that battle between warm and cold, and you're going to have those rounds of severe weather, and you can still get snowstorms in March. So I don't put away the parkas just yet or the winter gear just yet. You're still going to be dealing with some winter, especially if you're in the northern parts of the country, upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. Maybe some of you folks in the Northeast may still deal with some heavy snowstorms. But the good thing about March is that the higher sun angles, more sun heat, more radiation from the sun, even on cloudy days, can melt that snow a lot faster. So even though you may pick up some heavy snow in the month of March, it's not going to stick around. So that's a great thing for that. So here we are for our temperatures at the surface, and as you see, you can pick out those frontal boundaries right here. And when you see where that warm air across Florida and the southeast, but then the colder air in the center part of the nation, especially in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, you see how it's just perpetual weather systems. This is all along that southern jet stream right here, and you can see those temperatures kind of represent perfectly how our weather pattern is going. When we get the northern jet stream come in, and then you get the southern jet stream, and they all kind of racing off toward the northeast there. So that's a look at the temperatures. You see how cold it is across parts of the upper Midwest. We will get some days where we might, Thursday and Friday, if you're in the upper Midwest here, you may see a couple days in the teens for highs, but that's going to quickly rebound, because as we hit Sunday, this coming Sunday, we'll see those temperatures rebound into the lower to mid 30s, and it'll give us a chance for rain and some rain and snow mix. So we're going to get those periods where we warm up a little bit, shot of cold air, but it's going to only last a day or two. So this is the bearable part of the year, even though it's a sloppy mess. I love March. I love the sloppy messes of March. I mean, serious. I like the chaos, and it's unpredictable. If the weather is not going to stay the same all day, you may have a sunny morning and then a big storm in the afternoon and a snowstorm by the nighttime. So anything can happen in the month of March. So let's move on and take a look. This is our Cape. This is going to be areas where we'll see severe weather, and this is for the 8th, for the 8th, we'll see that severe weather. This is for your Tuesday. As you can see, a lot of that severe, that heavy cape will be gone, but we'll see it across Florida for the next couple days after today. So tomorrow, most of the thunderstorm activity is going to be confined to the far southeastern corner of the nation and into Florida. But I don't anticipate anything severe out of that. But anything can happen these days. It is March, and that is Florida. You know, Florida's crazy, man. You never know what can happen. I used to live down there, and anything can happen. So you always want to keep your head to the sky if you're living in Florida. So here is here is for tomorrow's here is today's severe weather outlook, and that's where it's got where the SVC think that we'll see that severe weather across the Appalachians. This is mostly the Appalachia, and then the southeast as well. So we have Alabama, Georgia, as well as parts of Mississippi is going to pick up those severe weather threat today. So here is what we're going to look at for tomorrow. As you can see, it's mostly general thunderstorms, non-severe stuff tomorrow across the southeast, especially down in Florida. But this doesn't mean that you can't see an isolated severe storm. But I don't anticipate anything widespread across those areas tomorrow. So here is a look at the snowfall depths and the snowfall forecast. As you can see, we will get some snow that we're getting right now across these areas here. So we have central Iowa as well as into the Chicago area and Milwaukee. You're going to pick up some snow. And this is about 5 to 6 inches of snow in these regions here. So as you can look at that snow, it's going to come out of the mountains and move into the central plains and move across into the northeast. Kind of follow our general pattern of the weather flow has been. And this is about up to 6 inches of snow. But if you get into the mountains area, especially in Maine, you can see some areas, well, that's outside into Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. You see the magentas, you're going to pick up about a foot of snow in those regions. Here is a look at our, my eyes are watering and running and my nose running. I'm a sloppy mess today. So here is our telekinetics. We're looking at our North Atlantic oscillation. This tells us what's going on in the polar regions and how it can affect our weather. So this affects mostly the northern plains and the northeast. You can see it's in a very positive phase. So that means we're going to have a lot of high pressure moving, especially about the 16th of March or so. About mid-March, you'll see the NAO take a very positive phase. So right now, it's just a little bit, at this time, it's just a little bit negative right now because we have that East Coast storm that's going on right now. But it's not like a nor'easter type storm, else that would be way down here. I've been trying to get that sneeze out. There we go. Excellent. Now we got that done. So anyway, we have that slightly negative phase right here, which is about where we are. So today is the 7th. So as you can see that, if you line it up here, you can see that about that borderline. Then we'll get that dip right here because that's that current storm that's moving through. But then a ridge is going to build in across the northeast. Okay, so we'll get that ridge building in, and then that ridge really builds in, and that we get rid of that shot. This is warmer air. This is going to be that warmer air that's going to move in. We get a big ridge of high pressure because we actually going to have a trough in the center of the nation with a ridge on the west and a ridge on the east. So here's the Atlantic oscillation. Here's the AO. Again, this is going to represent what our weather is going to be like on the East Coast. Now, this has a lot to do with, this is our Arctic oscillation, excuse me. This has a lot to do with the polar jet stream and the polar vortex. And when we hit a positive, that means that polar vortex is moving really, that those circulation across the Arctic Circle is moving really, really fast. And it's bottled in cold air. It's being able to hold that cold air up at the Arctic Circle. And so when that AO goes negative, that means those winds are slowing down, and that's going to allow that Arctic air to sag south. And that's when we get those Arctic blasts across the United States. But you see how it's going to go really positive about the middle part of March, about the 16th. But if you look at it right now, here is where it was on March 6th. You see how we get those dips right here. That's that colder air being allowed to come into the East Coast in the northeast of the United States. But when that goes positive, you'll see it warm up across the East Coast, all right? Here is the North American pattern, the Pacific North American pattern. Now this affects the Pacific Northwest primarily, especially, and when we look at it here we are about March 6th. You see how it's negative, as we are in the negative phase of the PNA. It's in a negative phase, so that means we have that colder air across the Pacific Northwest, and we get storms that's going to come onto the Pacific Northwest and the southern part of British Columbia. We'll see those storm systems come on shore to the Pacific Northwest, as well as colder air, which is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing that colder air. Now, we're not seeing any precipitation at this time in the Pacific Northwest, but we are under the influence of cold high pressure, so it's been a lot cooler over the last few days. They've had several days of rainfall last week, but now they're in that air that's on the backside of those low pressure centers and that cold Canadian high pressure, or Pacific Canadian high pressure. But you'll see it's going to stay mostly negative for the foreseeable future. Maybe a little bit of a bump here where maybe they can get a little bit of warmer weather, but for the most part the West Coast is going to remain under the influence of that cooler temperatures and more wet weather. It's going to remain in the wetter pattern as long as this stays in a negative phase. So let's take a look at what the EPO looks like. Now, EPO is a lot to do with what's going on out by Hawaii. Now, with the EPO in the negative phase, this is going to bring wet weather to Alaska. So now we have, we'll look at some maps here in a moment, and we'll see what's going on across Alaska. As you see, a couple of Pacific storms. The Aleutian Low is going to send in a couple pieces of energy into Alaska. But you see, it's going to go positive about the 11th, so about your Friday or so, it's going to go positive again. So we'll see conditions improve in especially in Alaska and Hawaii. And then here is a look. I'm going to stand over here so you can see. I guess we're not going to be able to see it. I guess I made it. No, that's the right one. That's the right one. All right, so we have here. This is what's going on across the Pacific. This is one of the effects of that negative phasing of the PNA and the EPO. You see this area of high pressure. You got this big ridge of high pressure that's hanging out across the Northwest, at least in the Northern Pacific here. The Eastern Northern Pacific is right offshore of British Columbia, and the Pacific Northwest is going to have that influence where you're going to have that cold air. That circulation around this bad boy is this way. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you're going to see that cold northerly wind. I hate when the winds blow out of the north because it's always cold. It always does that here too. So that's what's going to be looking like for now for the Pacific Northwest. All right, here is the map I wanted to show you. Now you can see what's going on. You see this storm here? Let me stand over here so you can see what's going on, because I really want to show you what's going on in Alaska and the Pacific Northwest and on the West Coast. You see that big air? See those two big swirlers there? Look at those storms come on shore in Alaska. This is going to bring that wet weather across the Aleutian Islands up into Anchorage and Juneau, Alaska. You're going to see that wet weather, but you have this big ridge of high pressure. Now you see how that ridge just flattens out, and now we're looking at out into about the about the 13th of March, if I can see the day over there. So this is going to be about sometime into next week. You're going to see that big ridge of high pressure set here off of it. This is because that EPO is negative, is going to go negative, and that PNA is going to go negative for the most part. So this is going to keep that colder air blowing across the Pacific Northwest, and you see those storm systems. And what this also means is that if you're in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, this is the source for Alberta clippers. See how that comes out? Boom! You see how these guys come across? That's those Alberta clippers. That's how they originate. They come across that high pressure, sends those storm systems into the British Columbia and the Northern Territories of Canada. They go over the top of the ridging that's here, and they come down into the upper Great Lakes, into the Great Lakes, and the upper Midwest and the high plains. You get those Alberta clippers. That's the influence of that polar jet stream on our area, as well as the Pacific Northwest and the Great Lakes in the Northeast. So that's what that looks like. So let's move on to your local forecast. Now let's get into what's going on more closer to home, the Twin Cities and the upper Midwest, okay? So our current conditions across the Twin Cities right now is currently 16 degrees under mostly sunny skies. Now we did have a lot of precipitation this weekend, and temperatures just warm enough to produce some patchy fog. So there is some areas of patchy fog, especially in your less populated areas. If you're kind of like out in the wooded areas or open areas, or maybe around some of the lakes, there's a little bit of patchy fog because there's a little bit of warmth that's coming off of the lakes that's interacting with the cool land masses that are a little bit cooler than the water. So you're going to get patchy ground fog. And we also have our dew point is about 9 degrees. The humidity is 74%. The winds is kind of breezy out of the northwest at 13 miles per hour. That's that northwesterly flow behind these storm systems. That Canadian high pressure that's out to the west. Gonna send that northwesterly breeze in. See those breezy temperatures, those breezy conditions, 13 miles per hour. It's gonna make a wind chill of 2 degrees, still above, but it's a noticeable wind chill out there. So you might want to bundle up if you're gonna head out to go to work, go to school today, and want to catch the bus. Visibility is perfect at 10 miles per hour. The pressure is 30.13 inches and rising. And our sunrise and sunset, respectively, under mostly sunny skies. Okay, here's your bus stop forecast for today. In the morning, 17 degrees for your bus stop temperature under mostly sunny skies. It's going to say mostly sunny all day today. The daytime high will reach 28 degrees under mostly sunny skies. Here's what we're going to look at for tomorrow. Mostly sunny in the morning tomorrow we'll have a high temperature. It should be flipped. This should be 16 in the morning, and this should be 36 in the afternoon, with a chance of rain and snow mix. Only a slight chance, about a 20% chance of a rain and snow mix in the afternoon. Remind you, these should be flipped. 16 in the morning, 36 in the afternoon, with that rain and snow. All right, here's the outlook for other towns in the upper Midwest. You folks in Chicago and Cook County, gonna see that mixed precipitation today, that mix of rain and snow, as well as in Milwaukee. You're gonna see almost identical weather with that mix of rain and snow. Duluth, you're gonna have a nice day today with a temperature of 29 degrees, so you've been slightly below the freezing mark there, but you will be mostly sunny for the most part with a few clouds passing from time to time. Rockford, you're gonna be and also in the mix with that rain and snow mix with a high temperature of 34 degrees. Here is your 5-day forecast for the Twin Cities. So today we'll see the high of 28 with this morning's low of 16. Tomorrow we'll see those temperatures in the mid-30s with that chance of afternoon, that mix of rain and snow in the afternoon with the low temperature in the morning of 13. We're going to cool off a little bit on your Wednesday under partly cloudy skies with a high of 28.2 with a morning low of 8 degrees. A little bit cooler yet on Thursday with that temperature in the afternoon of 19 after a morning low of 5. And then Thursday night will be the coldest night yet of the week with a 1 degree low for your Friday morning, but a 20-degree high. But that chance of a few snow showers is going to move in. So that is a look at what's going on across the Twin Cities and America. Thanks for joining me. I hope you be back with me for the next video and the next talk about the weather and the next forecast. You can please like this channel, share it with your friends, share the link with your friends, subscribe to the channel, help a brother out special, okay? I'm helping y'all out with these wonderful forecasts. Show me some love and subscribe and help me join my channel, grow my channel. Help me grow my channel by clicking that